So I am Lauren Ball. I'm an attorney in Arkansas. I have had migraines for about 20 years, and I experienced shoulder and neck pain for probably 10 years before I started the pain course.
So what inspired you to sign up for the program?
Well, when I saw the program, I thought, okay, this is a way that I can have less migraines a week. I was taking a prescription medication multiple times a week for my migraine, which caused rebound migraines, and it was kind of a cycle that I was hoping to get out of. But at the time, I really didn't think it was possible to never experience migraines. I was just hoping to maybe have like one or two a week. And I was sort of hoping that it would help my shoulder and neck pain, but at the same time, like I really believed that was pain that I would have forever.
What was your experience like going through the program? So we chatted briefly about it, and basically I just said, here's a link, and then, we'll go through the first week and then we'll chat.
Yeah. So the first week was really eye-opening for me because it was an introduction to the actual like pain science, which I had heard of, but I wasn't really familiar with. And I think when I went through the whole first week materials, it kind of opened my mind up to, oh, this is something that could actually, get rid of pain. Like you can actually rewire your brain, which was a totally like new concept for me. And so that kind of laid the foundation, for me for the whole course. And I think I started the materials on like a Saturday or a Sunday. And then it just it put that in my mind, like this is how this could work, And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had no pain, like no shoulder pain, no neck pain, no migraines. And I was completely freaked out. I was like, okay, what is happening? What is this magic that is going on? I was like skeptical, and I was also really shocked because it had been, a full 20 years of pain. And then, all of a sudden I'm pain free for, 3 days straight. It was just blowing my mind. And then I would have some symptoms come up. I think it was that Thursday, and I had a different awareness of the pain and the symptoms, after going through the first week. And then we had our coaching, and I feel like the one-on-one coaching helped me, made things more concrete for me. It also, I feel like it like set me up for success. It helped me actually apply it. Like I learned the tools in the course, within the coaching helped me like learn how to apply it to myself. So that was really helpful. And then I think we moved on to like your thoughts and your feelings after that, and also just observing your physical symptoms. And so when I would have the symptoms come up, I was able to realize what was kind of triggering those symptoms, which was new for me. I had always thought this is just something that happens to me and will always happen to me, but this time I was able to really see this happens and then I get the symptoms. And then I was able to identify this cycle of fear that I was jumping into about the symptoms because, that had been explained to me in the program and I knew what to look for. And then I think we got into like the actual tools, which was like self-compassion. And that was also a new concept for me. And allowing your feelings, which was definitely new for me. And so that was really, I think, what was most important for me, because when I said, okay, I can offer compassion to myself, and then I can also be willing to feel negative feelings, and that can include pain. Well, then I just stopped having the symptoms all together. And yeah, it was a crazy whirlwind experience, but it was amazing. Yeah. And I'm still in shock.
Because obviously you went to the doctor.
Yeah.
You had medication, you had migraines for 20 years. You went to the doctor.
Yeah.
Probably more than one doctor.
Right. Yeah.
What did they tell you about what you were experiencing?
For my migraines, I was told, this is genetic, and my only option is to continue to take medication. I could take, preventative medication, but the side effects were pretty extreme, so I wasn't really open to that. So what I ended up doing was I would take medication every time, I got a migraine, and I had lots of side effects from that as well. And the different doctors that I saw just basically told me that, that was my option, and that I should really be thankful that the medication works for me, that I'm able to take it and just soldier on with the day, that was the best outcome that I could hope for. As far as my shoulder and my neck pain, I really hadn't been offered any kind of help that had given me any relief. I had a X-ray and an MRI, and they showed no structural issues. They couldn't point to anything that was wrong. We tried muscle relaxers, which did work, but also had, detrimental side effects. So that didn't last very long. And then I've tried 3 different physical therapy programs, and, those were not successful either. And so it was just, there wasn't any other options after that. So it was just like, well, you can take, a leave every day. And that was really the only thing that had been offered to me.
There's the science about neural pathways and how the brain and nervous system interprets signals from the body. Mm-hmm. Then there's also this part that Dr. Sarno talks about, which are the personality types. And so that was something you felt like you could see yourself in, the personality types of people who are likely to kind of somaticize this resistance, I think, is how I'm going to try to language that. Mm-hmm. Can you say more about that? Like what did you have an aha moment? Like, what was that like coming across that information?
Yeah, so I think that was the very first week. I think it was one of the first slides, I'm just casually, watching the program, and then it comes up, these are Dr. Sarnos's, personalities that are more likely to experience chronic pain. And I was like, okay, this feels very pointed at me. I feel very attacked right now, And I saw the perfectionist, I think it was, and I was like, okay, that's definitely me. And then I saw the legalist, and I was like, yes, I totally saw myself in that description. And it just blew my mind. It was like every part of the program, it was just like, yes, this is me. This program was made for me, And I think that my main kind of how I see myself, or how my past self was, that I wanted to be right, in a way that was, I wanted to do everything perfectly to make sure I'm like the perfect spouse, the perfect employee, the perfect mom. And I had kind of an idea of what that would look like and boxes that I needed to check to get there. And so that's how I kind of checked to see if I'm like doing okay, was doing that. And it would not be okay to, have negative feelings or negative emotion. And so I just resisted that kind of, I thought would really just get in the way of me being, this perfect person who was doing everything right all the time. And so I was hoping that your program would just check that box for me, and I could move on trying to check the other boxes.
Yeah, I kind of messed that one up, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I got to the part in the program that was like, we're going to talk about allowance, I was like, oh man, here we go.
What did that feel like to be asked to examine, the space around getting a migraine? Can you say more about that? What that felt like for you?
It felt really, really foreign. I think the way that I described it at the time was that I just felt very raw, because I had never looked into that. I had never looked at those emotions or even broken down the symptoms, that I was having. I had these like pre-symptoms, where I would see like floaters, and the left side of my face would go numb, and that would kind of kick off the cycle of fear. I had never thought about what comes before that, like what starts that. And so it was totally different for me. And the first time that I did it, I was like, oh, I'm feeling angry. I don't recall ever feeling this, in the last 20 years. And then I was like, oh, I feel angry because I don't want to feel sad. And it kind of all fell together where my brain was like, hey, look over here. Look at these terrible floaters. Look at your face is numb. Forget about being sad, move on to the pain. And then, we got into the part of the course where, pain is to protect you. And it all just came together. It all made sense. And it was kind of a relief to know, like, okay, this is why this is happening. And it is something that I could change.
So your face going numb sounds like a very scary and significant symptom that would be alarming and makes you think that there's something wrong, on the inside, right? Like something wrong with your body.
Yes.
So yeah. What was that experience like to watch that symptom change?
Well, the way that I used to experience the symptoms was like the first scary symptom would be the left side of my face going numb. Then my vision would become blurred. Then I would get nauseous. Then my whole left arm was numb. And it would just kind of go downhill from there until I took the medication. And what I always thought, in my mind was, well, if I didn't take this medication, it's inevitable that I'm going to have these symptoms. And if I didn't have this medication, I couldn't possibly take care of myself or hold down a job or take care of my child. I need this, and this is something I'll never be able to change. And if I don't have my medication, I'm in so much trouble. And so then I go through those, and I'm having this, 4 or 5 times a week. And so I go 3 days without a migraine was mind blowing. And then I experienced the symptoms start to come up, and I was able to just, ask myself, okay, what am I resisting feeling right now? And the first time that I did that practice and I realized, okay, I'm angry, it's because I'm sad. And it was just like a switch flipped, and the symptoms literally just faded away. And once again, I was totally freaked out. I was like, okay, wait, where, what is happening? Where is the pain, And then I think later in the week, something else happened where the symptoms started to come up again. And then I was like, okay, I have this tool in my back pocket. I'm going to try to use that. What am I resisting? But I'd kind of already gotten into the panic mode. And so that was just like a frantic searching of my mind. So it was really not working out. And so I kind of went back to, okay, what have I learned in the course? That it's really all about allowance. And, there's one part that talks about, you have these thoughts, but you don't have to always pick them up. You can just let your thoughts go on. And, it talks about that in the course, how to do that and kind of visualize that in your mind. And so I'm doing that. And I was just thinking, the pain can be over there. I don't have to engage with it. And I can be willing to just allow this pain and to not make it a scary thing. And as soon as I was willing to allow that pain, then the symptoms went away again. And so I think it really, it happened time after time. I was skeptical every time, and then it worked every time. And so after a couple of weeks, it just built up my confidence. And now I know that if the symptoms do come up, I know how to handle them and to really look into myself and see how can I offer myself compassion.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And I want to be clear, I did not tell you not to take your medication.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did.
But I think what I asked you is, before you take your medication, make a little room to pay attention.
Yes.
And you really were able to, you just took that and grew that. And in the paying attention, you could watch it shift.
Yes. Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yeah. And that was another thing that helped me was the tool that we talked about, the somatic tracking that we practiced. And I thought that's I also was really skeptical, that's not going to work. And you visualize your pain and your symptoms, and then, the pain can move and shift. And the first time I was doing that with the numbness, it's always on the left side of my face, when it happens, and I'm doing the somatic tracking, and it like moved over to like the bottom right side of my face. And I was like, okay, like these symptoms can change. Like if it can move, it can also recede. So it was really helpful to be able to just observe the symptoms and not engage with them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm always just blown away.
I'm still blown away.
I love that.
Yeah.
Work also has changed not only your pain experience, but just kind of how welcoming all your feelings and creating like a conversation of allowance inside of you has changed some things for you. Would you say more about that?
Yeah. So I was thinking today about, what did I get out of the course, and of course now I'm pain free, but also I would say that the biggest thing that I got out of it was just everything else that changed in my life. And I think, I'm a recovering perfectionist now. I wanted everything to be so perfect that I wasn't engaging in my life, my own life. I was really just resisting negative emotion, but that really resulted in I was also resisting positive emotion and also any connection, any real connection with people. And so as I started practicing allowance in the course, I started feeling all kinds of emotion, and also started feeling like I could have a genuine relationship with people in my life, with my spouse and with my son. And every time I felt the feeling of connection, or every time that I felt an emotion, it was just like, oh wow, like this is what joy feels like. How exciting that I get to experience this, and then the same thing happened when I would feel sad. I'm like, wow, so this is what sadness feels like after 20 years of resisting any feeling. And I just felt lucky to be feeling the full human experience and to be able to have a human relationship with my son and with my spouse. And I just feel like I'm really engaged in my own life now, whereas before I was just trying to check the boxes, of the life.
That's amazing. And it's not like it's a not stressful time.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't have to take your life and put it on hold to create this work. You were doing it while you're working full time in the middle of a pandemic. And I know that you work kind of in the midst of stuff related to COVID. So,
yeah.
What's happening around us, the pandemic is very impactful on you as a person. And so you had these experiences while within just being in your own life.
Yeah, probably honestly the most, intense, emotionally intense, time of my life, in recent history due to the pandemic and how my job is kind of related to dealing with the pandemic. So I know that if I can experience my life right now in the midst of this pandemic and, my work and not have any pain, then I should be good for the rest of my life.
I know.
Yeah.
That part of belief that we talked about, right, is understanding kind of the science about how the brain works and how the neural pathways work, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like I engage in those neural pathways, the ones that were so strong for me for so long that I automatically jumped into at the beginning of the program. I mean, that is no longer an automatic response for me anymore. I go back and I look at the notes that I took, from the beginning of the week and of the program, and I just realized, that doesn't happen for me anymore. Those switches just don't flip for me anymore. So I'm very thankful. Yeah.
Wow. That's
I have no pain pathways in my brain now.
you're like gliding down the no pain pathways.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more you travel down them, the more automatic they become also.
Right.
Yeah, that is I'm still just, I mean, I'm in awe of this work, even though I'm in 100% full belief of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is the human, the human part of it, right? And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of it that we don't obviously control, but I think what's so beautiful about having kind of shepherded you through this process is your willingness to embrace this material and to really apply it to yourself. And it's not that you didn't have doubt. You had doubt and you were willing. You know, you were skeptical and you were like, let's try it. And so it was both of those together that I think so remarkable. Tell me a little bit about like your approach to like movement and exercise before going into the program and a little bit more kind of after it.
Okay, so before I started the program, I had an intense stretching routine that like had to be done every single morning, or I was guaranteed to get a migraine. And if I did not, which I got them anyway, but if I didn't do my, stretching routine, it was, stretching my neck and my shoulders and everything, then I felt a lot of, shame and guilt. And I just thought, well, I obviously like can't take care of myself. I didn't check that box off of, what I'm supposed to be doing in order to like be living this perfect life to take care of myself. And that was about it. I mean, I did not engage in any other kind of like movement really. And I think it was just because, I didn't see the value in doing anything else. I didn't see the value in like investing in myself in that way or doing anything that would be enjoyable. If it wasn't productive in a certain way, then it just didn't seem valuable to me. Now I think it was like midway through the course, I quit stretching like as soon as we started the course. It just didn't seem necessary after I learned about the pain science, but then about halfway through the course, I was like, I think that I really would want to do like regular yoga. Just like maybe I would enjoy that, which was a new concept for me. And so I did yoga and I was like, wow, I actually just enjoy like the feeling of the stretching of the muscles and everything. And I was able to like notice how it felt. And it was a completely different experience. Before when I was doing my stretching, which was a form of yoga, I would get like intense symptoms like numbness throughout. I'd get nauseous, all kinds of like bad symptoms. And, now when I do yoga or any other kind of movement, I'm observing my body and how it feels, and there are no bad symptoms. I'm just actually enjoying it. And I've also, since I did not move before, it's not always like the physically easiest thing ever, when I decide I'm going to go for a walk, with my son or, push him in a stroller for like a jog or anything. And so it's been really helpful to have the somatic tracking as a tool, and so like as I'm doing this brand new movement to me, I kind of am able to apply the course to that as well. I'm like, nothing bad is actually happening to me right now. I'm not going to die because I'm like a little tired or my feet are doing something new, and so I'm able to know like, number one, I'm not going to die. Like I don't have to stop. And number two, these symptoms, I can observe them and they can move and I can go on and like enjoy the walk with my son. So now I'm really just doing movement for enjoyment and also just because now I think it's worthwhile to invest in myself.
Is there anything else that you want to say or add that I didn't cover?
I don't know. I'm just excited for my own progress, but then also like I just want everyone, I want to like shout it from the rooftops. I want everybody like get in here and do this. If you think you're living your life right now, you're not. Like jump in and like, like you can actually feel things in your life and you're going to be okay. And it's actually going to be super enjoyable. Like I just feel like every day I'm becoming more human, and it's just, I feel really lucky to have found the course and to have found you and to really be experiencing my life and my family, finally. So I just want everybody to have that. saying that, one thing that I thought of that I think is super helpful about the course material is the way that it's presented in, it's a way that makes sense to lay people. I'm not a physician. I really don't have any kind of background in, like the brain and things like that. And the way it was presented to me, it just was easy. Like it was understandable, it was accessible. And so I understood it, but it was also presented like in a way, like in an order that made sense. It was just like every time that I heard something in the course, it was like at the moment that I needed to hear it. And it just slowly like unraveled for me, and it made sense through the whole thing. It wasn't like a doctor coming in and explaining something to me in like super technical terms. It was user friendly for sure.
Tell me, I gave you an instruction in the beginning of the course.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Do you want to share that?
Yeah. So I think it was our very first session that we had. And I think you could tell, you said something about like, here's a link, and a book or something. And I probably had this look in my eyes like, oh, I'm going to order that book and like 20 others. And, I was really interested with pain science anyway. And so I started to view the course as like another thing that I could accomplish perfectly. And, like, I'm going to have all these notes for you on the course, and I'm going to read like 50 books, and I'm going to know every little thing about it. And you recognized that right away. And you were like, don't get like, it's not academic, you don't have to get too intense or too crazy with it. I don't remember how you worded it, but I was like, oh, that is definitely what I was about to do. And then a couple of days later, I caught myself. Like I was on my phone, like, had like 4 different, pain science, Dr. Sarnos's like books in my Amazon cart. And I was like, step away from the cart, and that helped me a ton, because I was about to definitely turn it into like an intellectual exercise that I could just like get an A in. And so when you said that, it kind of took me away from that, and it made me pay attention to what was happening, in my body personally, and applying it to my personal life, and not making it like, something I would get a grade on. Yeah, because I definitely would have done that if you hadn't said that.
I asked you to do something hard.
Yeah, I think it was always like at the very beginning of the week after we'd like have our session, and you're like, okay, like here's your assignment, which is always like feeling my feelings, or like giving myself self-compassion or something like that. I'm like, okay, sure, I can do that. But like 3 days later, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm dying, and it was always like a process. Like it would feel so intense. And then I was able to like, okay, I need to allow this. Like that's what we talked about, and create safety in myself. And then when I was able to do that, I was just able to watch myself go from like intense, arousal and emotion to allowance, and then just like coming back down to like normal, and, and watching the symptoms recede. So, but it felt very intense at first for sure.
Yeah. Well, good job. Like staying curious and riding through it. It's definitely that process.
I was like, it was very curious about, you said like, be a lazy detective, and that was helpful to me too, because I would have also, I would have taken that instruction like to an extreme as well. I probably would have every single emotion that I'm feeling, I need to like write it down and really, investigate why I'm feeling that and everything. But I, took the instruction of like the lazy detective, and it took the stakes down, it like made it a little less intense for me, and that helped me a ton as well.
Yeah. There's just something other than doing it right.
Yes. Yeah. And that was new.
Yourself. Yeah.
And every time I would feel the emotion come up, it was like actually exciting for me, even if it was a negative emotion, just because I had resisted feeling any emotion for so long that it was just like, wow, this is totally new. I didn't really remember what it felt like to be, genuinely sad, or, actually angry, so it was almost exciting to, I felt like I said, I feel like I'm going from a robot, or, someone that's like pretending to be human, to like slowly experiencing like, oh, this is what humans experience. This is how humans feel, like people that actually experience their emotions, this is how they experience life, you know. And I thought that would be a horrible thing, but it turns out it leads to a much richer, you know, genuine life. So, and pain-free, by the way. That was a bonus. And, you know, he has heard me talk about medicine before, the course or something. And he was like looking around in my bag and he's like, medicine? I was like, no, I actually don't have any medicine in there. And I don't even know if I have any. And I don't even know if I have any refills. And that is completely a new experience for me. You know, before it was like an absolute panic thing. I had to make sure that I had my medication with me at all times, you know, and now it's to the point where like I know I don't need it and, you know, it doesn't create any panic for me. So that was kind of shocking to realize.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm so happy. If I never do anything ever again, I will. I feel very satisfied.
I know. I'm like, you know, I thought about that. I'm like, a lot of people, they say like, I just want to like change people's lives, you know, like, well, you have actually like concretely 100%, you know, like really changed my life, changed how I experience my life for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I just presented you with some new ideas.
But I wouldn't have found those ideas. You know, that's the thing, is like those ideas are out there, but I wouldn't have found those ideas if I hadn't taken your course. And also it wouldn't have been presented all together, like in this perfect little package. And it wouldn't have been presented like in an order. Like I learned things really as I needed, as they were coming up for me. It was like, well, then the next slide like addresses that. You know, everything was there. It was like this toolkit that had everything that I needed. And then the one-on-one coaching, it's what made it like concrete. You know, like I had the tools, but I didn't necessarily know how to apply them to me personally. Like I realized some people, like look at all these people who are able to, you know, get rid of their pain. Like that's great, you know, and I intellectually understood that going through the materials. But then once we did the coaching, I was, you know, I learned how to apply it to me.